The short recording that I'm coming to you with today is, again, something very functional. I hope you will make a good use of it and it will be useful because this knowledge, the short little pieces of advice that I'm offering to you with these recordings, they are supposed to help you out. They are supposed to tell you that English is not such a difficult language and it is not such a devil as many people think. And there is some structure. And if you understand how the language functions and what you have to do in order to speak a good language, you will be a good speaker of the language. And we are going to cover the subject called or referred to as the word order. And this is something what I observe in the class, that the word order in English, in the English language, is trouble for many speakers, because what you do is you copy Polish structures and then you are surprised that what you produce is not entirely correct. And here we have to begin with a very tricky definition, because English is a foreign language, and English is this language that is completely different than Polish, because the two languages come from two different families of languages, and you cannot copy one language and try to translate what you have in mind into another language, and it refers to both of them. Like, it works both ways. So you cannot copy Polish and produce English sentences, and you cannot copy English and produce Polish sentences. When I present something like that to listeners, to speakers, many people, speakers of English, students, many people would say that, well, this is something we actually understand, but as a matter of fact, it is very difficult to do for us, because we can only rely on Polish because it is our mother tongue. And of course, I do understand this reply. I do understand where it comes from. I know that Polish is the only language you know, and that's why, in order to survive even, you have to have some structure, and that's why you refer to the Polish language. But whenever I hear something like that, I always give one advice, that you have to start speaking English, but we have to be very precise here. Speaking English, not Polish English, but speaking English as soon as possible. And you can start doing this at A1 level. You can start doing this after the third class. And I will explain what I mean here. So if you want to say something, if you have some idea that you want to convey, you need to have this idea in English. So you need to train your brain in order to look for English expressions and English words and English structures, and not to look for them in the Polish language. And this is the basic mistake that you make. And if you don't stop doing this, you will make the same mistakes over and over again, even at the B2 level, B2 plus level, maybe even sometimes at C1 level, because you will act as translators. You will not act as speakers of English. So for instance, when you want to train this ability, what you have to do is, when you are in a given situation, when you want to comment on something, when you want to describe a given thing, what you have to do is you have to do it straight in English. And a very good, I believe, piece of advice is to think in English, even when you're driving a car and you see something that is very surprising, when you are on a bus, and again, there is a situation that build some reaction in you. Try to think about this situation in English. Try to think what kind of words, what kind of expressions you would use in order to comment on the situation. And here, of course, comes this advice that I always give to you. And this is presented in the ebook that we prepared for you. We teach you how to learn, that in order to learn the English language and the way it is structured, and I'm going to talk about that and the way it is structured, you have to learn full phrases, I wouldn't say sentences, but at least full expressions. So like the verb and the preposition, or the noun and the preposition, or the adjective and the noun all together, because the brain likes and remembers pairs. It remembers pairs of words. So if that happens, you cannot learn these pairs of words like Polish, English, or English, Polish, because you have to rely on the full English pairs and full English structures. That's what you have to do. And if you do this, so for instance, you can learn the expression rely on, or look for, or depend on, or a beautiful girl. It seems very simple, like this, a beautiful girl, but believe me, and this is the way our brain works, or brains work, let's make it plural, that if you are in a situation and you get a bit stressed, and this is natural, whenever we have to produce some sentence, in some language, it can be English, it can be Polish, but we are supposed to make it public. We all get a little bit stressed. And believe me that when you're stressed, your brain will look for what it knows. And if the language knows the expression, a beautiful guy, it will go there, right? And it'll be safe. But if the brain knows only the Polish equivalent and then the English equivalent, that's all you will be left with, right? There will be no sentences, there will be no phrases, just soul translations. And this is not what is helping out, what is helping us when we want to speak the language. So please learn from the very beginning, from the very first lesson of the language, please learn the whole structures, the whole expressions, full phrases, because that will help you a lot. And if you know these full expressions and full phrases, then whenever you are in a situation that provokes some reaction in you, please think in English. And those of you who are a little bit, let's say, brave or braver, they can start speaking to themselves, but you have to tell people around you, family, friends, that you are perfectly all right and that you are aware of the fact that you are talking to yourself. But it can be, yes, it can be funny. It seems funny or irrational, but believe me that it helps a lot. And you can just like we train public speaking, yes, you can talk to the mirror, you can talk to a teddy bear, you can talk to a dog, however funny it seems. It is a technique, right? Because this is how you train your brain. And I use this expression that the brain is like any muscle in your body and you have to train it. So once you start thinking in English, you will never produce Ponglish, right? You will never produce this Polish English because your brain will stick to another structure of the language. And I started this little recording with telling you that Polish and English come from two different families of languages. And if this is so, they have very, very different structures and very, very different word orders. First of all, you have to be aware of the fact that English is this kind of language where the word order is very important. So whatever a given word means, it is defined through its place in a sentence. It doesn't work like that in Polish, because in Polish, we've got endings to the words. And of course, there are some more natural expressions, right? And of course, if there are any speakers of Polish, teachers of Polish, anybody who is educated in the language, they would say that some of the sentences in Polish, they would sound a bit wordy and some of them are not stylistically correct. I absolutely agree. But when we are talking about the very basic level, this level of communication, even if we change the word order in Polish, we can still get the message through because we've got this ending to the word. In English, it doesn't happen so. Just listen to this example of a sentence, right? When I say, I like you, this is a clear sentence. I believe everybody understands what I have just said. But then if I change the word order, you like, then I have to change the object, because I have to say you like me, and then I am producing a totally different sentence. Because in English, the word order is of crucial importance, and it goes like that. It is subject, verb, object. So whatever sentence you have to produce, at least at this stage of training the language, of course, the more you know, the more advanced you are, the more you read, the more structures you see, you can let yourself change the structures a little bit. You can change. You can start with this emphasis. You can start with some time word or anything like that. But for those of you who are still learning, and for those of you who need the structure, who need to feel safe, because why do we get stressed so much when speaking the language? Well, I believe we get so stressed because we don't feel safe. We don't feel confident. Many people come to me and they say that whenever they have to produce a sentence in English, they are stressed because they actually don't know if what they are producing is correct. So if you have the structure, if you know that what you're doing is 100% correct, then definitely you will get more confidence. So please rely on this structure, subject, verb, object. And I believe that will give you this confidence that you need very much. So even if you are producing a very simple sentence, like I have a dog, and this is exactly this word order: subject I, verb have, and the object is dog. Or even if you are presenting a sentence, building a sentence that is a little bit more advanced when it comes to grammar, just like we have been residing in the place for the last 15 years, for instance, still the word order is the same, because we've got the subject, then we have the verb, the action of the sentence, and then we have the object, like in the same place for the last 15 years. Believe me, trust me, that once you follow this rule, you will feel much better. And of course, you will stop making many mistakes. Yes, we have something like that in the English language. We've got inversion. It functions there, but it functions at a more advanced level. And it functions, again, with a very structure organized expressions, because if you want to produce a sentence in which there is inversion, you will produce a sentence with a very negative note at the very beginning. So you will start your sentence with the expression never. You would start your sentence with not in my life, never in my life, not a single thing, etc., etc. And then, yes, indeed, you change this word order. So the example would be like that: never have I seen such a beautiful girl, for instance, or not a single day did he spend working as an honest man. That's another expression. Never before have I experienced such a thing. So this is when we use inversion, and inversion is used in the regular sentences when you want to emphasize, right, some element of negativity in the sentence. But most of the sentences, I would risk the number, right, like 85% of sentences, 90% of sentences in the English language, they are produced with the use of the word order I have just presented to you. Subject, verb, object. And then when we think about the word order of a sentence, we have to think, of course, about questions. We have to think about negations. And once again, there is a rule. There is a rule you can follow. And if you can, after listening to this recording, you can make short notes. You can just learn through it, or with the use of this recording the way you want it. But believe me that if you see this structure, you will suddenly see that the language is that simple, or the language is really organized. So coming back to questions, we have two types of tenses in English, and they are organized in two different ways. So one of them, one type of these tenses, it uses grammar words. So these words that you don't see and you don't use in sentences, and then they appear suddenly in questions and negations. And another thing is the tenses which make use of auxiliary verbs. And these auxiliary verbs, they are there in the sentence, and then they are repeated in questions, and they are repeated in negations. All the tenses that they've got the names, like simple, for instance, present simple, past simple, they would use grammar words. So if I have a sentence in the present simple tense, for instance, I wake up at 7 every day, there is no extra word that you need there, right? You just have this word or the subject, verb, object. I wake up at 7 every day. But when you want to make a question, you have to add the grammar word, and that would be do. Yes, like in this respect, do you, because this is who I'm referring to. Like, do you wake up at 7 every day? Or does he, does she? Yes, does he wake up at 7 every day? And this is one type of a tense. The same type of a tense would be in past simple. So that would be like, we went to the cinema yesterday. No grammar word, but when we want to ask about that, we have to use this word. So we would say, where did you go yesterday? Or did you go to the cinema yesterday? And another type of tenses, as I have introduced that in this recording already, I introduced that a while ago. They are the tenses which use auxiliary verbs, and one of the examples would be the continuous tense or tenses, be it present continuous and past continuous, but it can also be the perfect tenses like have. In continuous tenses, in the present, in the past, we are making use of the be word, and it is used in the certain tense. I mean, in the present, it would be used in the present. So it is, I am speaking English to you right now, and she is reading a very interesting book. When it comes to past continuous, you would need to use she was having a party at exactly that time yesterday, and we were having a lovely, lovely time on holiday. So the auxiliary verb was, were, is, am, are. They will be in the sentence, they will be in the question, and they will be in the negation. So, are you speaking English right now? Is she working hard? Is she reading an interesting book? Were they having a party? Was she having a good time on holiday? Negations are very simple because they would make use of the same auxiliary verbs. Like you would say, I am not speaking English right now. She's not reading a book. We were not having a party. And unfortunately, she wasn't having a good time on holiday. When it comes to perfect tenses, I told you would use the have word. So you have to say, I have lived in Poland since I was born. So that's the sentence. Then we have the questions. Have you lived in Poland since you were born? And I haven't lived in Poland for the last 20 years or since I was born, for instance. So I hope it is all very clear to you right now. It is all very visible when you have to use the extra grammar word that is incorporated into the question and also into the negation, because I introduce questions like, do you wake up at 7 every day? But I never referred to negative sentences. So yes, if you have this question, do you get up at 7? Do you wake up at 7 every day? Then the negation would be, the negative sentence would be, of course, I don't. So there is a correlation between do and don't. The same goes for the third person singular. Does she wake up at 7 every day? And of course, the answer is no, she doesn't wake up at 7 every day. And that's all there is, really. It is all that simple. Some of you may say that it just seems too simple to be true, but in fact, it is not. It is that simple. I mean, language can prove to be difficult. Yes, I use the word. It can be proved to can be referred to as difficult. When we think about the expressions, when we think about words, when we think about this literary meaning versus the meaning that we read between the lines, and this is something that we have to study very hard. But when it comes to grammar, it is one of the easiest languages in the world. That's why so many people speak the language. And if the grammar is easy, it means that there is a structure. It means that you can follow some structure, something that will guide you. And with this recording on word order, I hope I have been of help. And I hope that sentences right now will be so much easier for you to build.